My name's Ron Wheeler. I was a professor here for 45 years in the field of international relations. There was a program before the honors program was created, and I wasn't involved in that, and it wasn't much of a program. There were some classes in different fields that you could take, and if you were lucky enough to have taken the right ones, at the end you could check and see if you had satisfied those requirements. But it was kind of an embarrassment of a program, and the fellow who was involved in that was a professor in medicine. His name was John Owen, and he thought we could do better than that. And it wasn't hard to do better than that. And so he put together a committee, and it consisted of two historians, Ted Regehr and Leo Kitson, me in economics and political science, and John McConnell in geography. And I don't think Alan Anderson was involved yet, but I might be wrong. Anyway, we sat down for endless meetings and talked about what an international studies program might look like. And if you have nothing, and there weren't any in Canada, I don't think, you have really nothing to go by. You just sit there and think until blood forms on your forehead and see what you come up with. And we weren't coming up with anything that everybody could agree on. And so, just in frustration one night, I put a proposal on paper and took it to a committee meeting. And that passed mainly because nobody else had put anything on paper, I think. And because it made a certain amount of sense. And it was supposed to allow students to integrate knowledge from different disciplines. There were certain core disciplines. At that time, and given what was proposed, it had an emphasis on contemporary events. And so there were two core classes. One was political science 217, which is now 261 and 262, and modern history, modern European history, I think. And not all the historians agreed that that was a good idea, and but nobody had a better idea, and so that became the honors program. The college passed it. We put the paperwork together and did all of that. And that was fine. It was all finished by one summer. And it went into the calendar, and that was it. That was the beginning. And as you know, it's morphed a lot since then. But that was the start. Well, I should tell you how International Studies honors seminar got started. That was part of the program. We put that in the proposal. Every student was supposed to take a fourth-year honors seminar that would be designed in the program that would enable them to bring everything together, geography and economics and history and what have you. And that was fine, and at some point we would do that. During the summer, the college told us that they had put that course in the calendar and a student had signed up for it. And they needed it because they had declared the new International Studies program as their major. And so they had to have the class. And so I scrambled to put together a class, and four of us that took turns meeting with this one student over the course of a year, because all the classes were 6 credits then. And so she got the first degree in international studies, and the rest of us got tired because we had regular teaching loads on top of doing this. And so it wasn't integrative at all. You know, the historians taught history, the political scientists taught politics, the geographers taught geography, and there was one lecture where the geographer gave a lecture on fishing in northern Saskatchewan in the International Studies program, because that's what he was ready for that day. And it didn't make any sense. But the course itself was a disaster. Until that was fixed years later, with someone actually taking over the course in a serious way. I don't think the program could have evolved in a meaningful way. It needed somebody giving the whole program direction and giving that course direction, and hadn't had that. It didn't have that at the very beginning because the college wasn't prepared to pay. I mean, it costs money to do those things. Well, later on, I think it became such an embarrassment that the college was prepared to pay. And out of that, I think, over the leadership of a number of people like Alan Anderson and Jim Handy and Callie Dianandan and others, it got that direction, and it did evolve a bunch. It started off, I think, with a focus on conflict, that then became almost an area studies program, and then one with an emphasis on poverty in the third world. And now it has a bit of all of this, and students having some choice as to which route they want to take. And I think it's become a better program than it was when late at night I sat down with a pen and a piece of paper and put something together. I think it made sense then, but I think it's a much better program now. I suppose keep the faith. People in international studies, from the beginning, and even way back before the beginning, like, why did I get involved? But, why did so many students over so many years choose this? They were a little different. They were more worldly, almost otherworldly sometimes. They were altruistic, idealistic. They didn't just want to understand the world, but they wanted to make the world a better place. And I've seen that from the beginning, and it's tough to do that. But I have lots of former students that are working in areas of human rights and poverty, third world countries, United Nations. There's lots of ways to try and fix things. But there's lots of academics too. I mean, there's lots of people who just want to understand better what's happening out there, and that's really important. But for IS students, I think I've seen from the beginning this desire to make it not just a more understood place out there, but somehow a better place. I think at the very beginning, we feared that if you had a degree in international studies, you were unemployable. Because the employers were looking for an economist, or they were looking for a political scientist who could do that kind of research, or they wanted a sociologist. And that's still true, but not as true as it was back then. And I don't think that students who have a degree in international studies are disadvantaged the way they were back then. And so many employers, except the corporate world is still a little different, but so many employers are just as interested in somebody with a degree in international studies as international economics. Or they seem to understand that if you can do political research, you can do research with an international studies degree. And so I guess my advice would be don't worry as much about it as you probably have. And secondly, that there are a lot of jobs out there where they're looking rather specifically for somebody with that kind of background. And I do have students working in the UN Human Rights Council, working for the International Refugee Organization, and lots of other places advertise widely for people with your kind of background. Oh, congratulations to everyone for putting together a 50-year program. I never would have imagined, we didn't envision anything like that. We just wanted to get by and create something that was more academically respectable for students. Well, now it's become an institution at this university, and I think students can and do take a lot of pride in being in the program, but that they always have. And I think that's a really good thing. Having been there back at the beginning, it's really nice to be here at this point and see what it's become. I'm Ron Wheeler. I was there at the beginning, and it's nice to still be around after 50 years.